The moment has come. Oh, it is very hot. Hey there, it's Amanda. Today I am going to be making a strawberry and rhubarb biscuit skillet. That's the name of the recipe, and it's basically this jammy layer of strawberry and rhubarb baked in a cast iron skillet with a biscuit topping that also gets nice and toasty. And I am super excited about it. It's a recipe by Jesse Sevchek, who does a lot of work for us and is an amazing recipe developer. So I have 1.5 pounds of strawberries. They've been quartered. Here we go. Oh, I guess I could have, that was dumb. I could have just used the original bowl and then saved this bowl for the biscuits, but now I've dirtied 2 bowls. I'm gonna combine that with the rhubarb, which is 1 pound of rhubarb that's cut into 1/4-inch chunks. So I'm just gonna give those a little mix with my hands. Next step is, okay, we're gonna add lemon juice and lemon zest. I've got my microplane zester. This is very much up my alley of spring desserts, where you're kind of cooking with this delicious seasonal fruit and then getting it kind of nicely jammy and caramelized, adding some seasonings, a little cake element. Okay. Where is my brown sugar? Oh, here it is. So I've got a cup of light brown sugar. Turns out I guess I was sort of supposed to measure the lemon juice. It was about 1/4 cup of juice, 1.5 teaspoons of zest. I'm gonna say it was about that. Okay, so then I'm gonna add 1/3 cup of cornstarch and then 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, which I do not have. So I'm gonna see how much I can squeeze out of here. That's 1 teaspoon, maybe 2. Okay, it's almost. And actually, I'm gonna put that bean in there and just, well, actually no, I'm not. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it open. I'm gonna scrape them out and use a strawberry. I've got 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Made that a generous 1/2 teaspoon. And then I've got cinnamon, of course. Actually 2 teaspoons, wow, okay. So Jesse says that you can actually mix this right in the pan, and he says you can use a 9 or a 10-inch skillet. I think that's a little dicey with this much fruit, so I decided to do it in a bowl so I could have a little bit more control. That squeaky sound is the cornstarch, of course, which is gonna help this thicken as it cooks in the oven. Oh, and speaking of the oven, I have that heating to 375 degrees. Now we're gonna move this into the skillet. I am using a enameled cast iron stove skillet, which I used it to cook quesadillas last night. So it's a very handy thing. I've roast chickens in it sometimes. I make up the frittatas in it. Oh, this looks nice. So you're supposed to press this down, and then I'm gonna just set it aside, and we're gonna make the biscuit topping now. The next step of this recipe is super fun, and it is making the biscuits. So I'm going to add some flour, 2 1/4 cups of flour, and then I've got some sugar, 3 tablespoons of sugar, and some baking powder, and salt, 1/2 teaspoon. What happened to my 1/2 teaspoon? Oh, there it is. Okay, and then I'm gonna whisk that. That just lightens it all up, mixes it together. Jesse has you do this directly into the bowl, but I think it's gonna be a little hard given that I have a box grater. So I have butter, and it's unsalted, and then this way you get these little shavings rather than having to cut it into cubes and then mush it a lot with your hands. So there's consistency. Look at, oh my God, that looks so cute. They look like little pasta shells. Truth be told, I've actually never shaved butter before for biscuits, and I am very curious to see how this goes. Okay, and now I'm going to just use my hands, because I think that's the best tool you've got right now, to coat all of the butter curls in the flour mixture. Oh, and that feels so good. And Jesse's has you kind of do a little smushing with your fingers. Okay, so we are gonna now add the cream. Let's just add it all at once, I think, yeah? Let's see here, add the heavy cream, yeah, okay. It's all going in, whole cup. And then a teaspoon of vanilla, which I no longer have. So I'm gonna use almond extract, which actually I think is gonna be sort of cool. I'm not gonna use a whole teaspoon, I think I'm gonna use a 1/2 teaspoon. All right, and then I'm just mixing this till a shaggy dough forms. Like, you don't wanna overwork a biscuit dough, but you gotta have it come together, so it's okay to keep kind of pressing it. I am going to transfer it to this floured patch, and then I'm gonna try to pull it together. I feel like this needs like just a tiny bit more cream, so I'm gonna Okay, so I'm pressing into a cohesive mass, and then I'm gonna roll out lightly with a lightly floured rolling pin in a circle to create a circle. And you know, feel free to reshape as you go. And it doesn't really matter because we're gonna be using this to cut little tiny circles out of. And then I've got my 1 3/4 inch, is that what it is? Yes, thick circle cutter or a rounded circle cutter. So dip that in some flour. I'm gonna hold off on putting them on. I'm gonna put them all on at once. Got our biscuits cut out. And now you can re-roll this, but I'm gonna first just push it into a little wad over there. So Jessie has you putting them pretty close together. I think I'm just gonna, maybe I'll just go around the outer edge first and then see where that takes me. These are gonna grow a little bit. So the next thing that we do, oops, I'm supposed to be on a phone call. Next thing we do is we rush through the last step so that I can be not too late for my work phone call. All right, so I am generously brushing these with cream, which will give them a nice glossy finish. And then the last step is to sprinkle some raw sugar on top. And then we're gonna stick it in the oven for, I think it's like a while, it's like almost an hour. The moment has come. Oh, it is very hot. And in fact, it was bubbling over. So pro tip, put this underneath your, on the shelf underneath your pan. I didn't do that at first, so now I gotta clean my oven. That's not so great. And this guy, we are just gonna look at it lovingly right now, but we're not gonna taste it because it is super hot. But as you can see, the biscuits are all nice and toasted on top, and all the juices have been bubbling. Some of them are now in the bottom of my oven, but that's okay. We're just gonna let this sit here and cool for probably at least an hour, if not longer, because it is super hot. And then we'll taste it, okay? All right, it is time to taste our strawberry and rhubarb biscuit skillet. And it's also time for beer mission. And tonight's beer mission is, it's Highwayman Pilsner by Roadhouse Brewing Company, which is from Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Here we go. Oh, nice. A little fruity. Speaking of fruit, time to dig in to our lovely dish here. So I am just gonna scoop out, I think I'm gonna aim for like 2 biscuits per person. Here we go, the official tasting. Not too sweet, which is great. Because I always feel like with rhubarb, people always try to oversweeten it to compensate for its tartness. You want some of that tartness. Brushing it with cream and then sprinkling on the raw sugar gives it this nice crisp top. And then it's a really nice tender biscuit. Definitely a go-to dessert for me this summer. And once rhubarb season is over, I'm gonna do cherries, I'm gonna do blueberries. I think you can do this with any kind of summer fruit. Peaches would be amazing. I love the biscuits, and that, as you saw, it was like super easy. And I will see you at my next episode. Bye.